Over the past decade and a half, I've helped hundreds of people achieve financial independence. And the ones who get there, they understand this one money model that I'm going to share in this video. But the reason most people don't know this is because it's the opposite of what we're taught, and it actually goes against our human nature. But if we can think about this differently, it will completely change how you think about every financial decision that you make. Let's get into it. But if I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller, and I actually have another channel with about 150,000 subscribers. But all those videos are for people in their 60s, and it's all related to retirement strategies. So I created this channel for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s so that I can share the wisdom from those who are older than us so that we can improve our financial life right now. And in order to apply this money model to our life, we need to first know two foundational money management terms. And here's the easiest way to understand them. It's the income statement up here and the balance sheet down here. I learned this from Robert Kiyosaki, and it changed how I manage money, and it's helped me increase my own net worth significantly. Now, when it comes to the income statement, that's simply what you make minus what you spend. And then the balance sheet down here is simply assets, which is things that put money in your pocket. And then liabilities are things that take money from your pocket. And we both know in order to grow wealth, our income needs to be much higher than our expenses. And we have to have more assets than we have liabilities. But the trap that people fall into is when they increase their income over time, they also increase their expenses. And what they often do is this, it's called the middle class trap. As our income goes up, that's great. But part of our human nature is to increase our status. And it's keeping up with the Joneses. And we want to prove and show that we're actually succeeding. And the way a lot of people do that, especially in the middle class, is they take that increased income and then they buy the better car, or they upgrade their apartment or their house. And technically they can afford it because their income has gone up, but they're buying these liabilities, which is in turn increasing their expenses here. And then they have less to show for it at the end of the month. And they're also not building their assets as they could be. And this is why so many rich people look rich, but in reality, they're not wealthy, because wealth is assets. It's not income. Income can be visible when we use it to buy these things, but wealth is often hidden. But let me show you what truly wealthy people do. And even if you're not wealthy, you can still apply this right now to your life. So what they do is when their income goes up, rather than immediately upgrading their lifestyle, they look to add some or a lot to increase their assets. And since assets put money in our pockets, it's actually continuing to increase our income over time. We've helped hundreds of people achieve financial independence at my wealth management firm, and every one of them is slowly building their assets to the point where it supplies enough income to cover all their expenses. And then they continue to work if they want to, but not because they need to. And that's true financial independence. I'll share a few ideas on what types of assets we should be looking to add here in the assets category. But first, if you can do me a favor and let me know if you like this kind of video or if it's helpful by clicking the like button, and then I'll be able to create more videos like this. And thanks in advance if you do that. Now, when it comes to assets, what should we be adding to build this income generating machine right here? I'm going to list a few that you might be expecting, but I want to start with one that is often overlooked. And it's the asset that you see when you look in the mirror. It's yourself and it's your skills. Because when you invest in developing your abilities that directly increase your earning potential, you're building one of the most powerful assets of all. An example could be communication training or sales skills or public speaking or digital marketing, whatever it is. These aren't just expenses where you pay, but you're actually getting something in return when you're improving your skills. They're really investments that can pay dividends for decades. About 4 years ago, I spent money on a course to increase my communication skills. And that alone, that increased the value of another asset, which is my business. So I'll write skills here. And then the other asset you hear a lot is business. And that asset over the last 4 years has 4x'd, which also greatly increases my income. And the beautiful thing about skill-based assets is they can't be taken away from you. They don't depreciate, and they often compound with your other assets too. These skills become a force multiplier for everything else that you do. So when you're thinking about building assets, don't forget the most important one, yourself. Now let's get to a few other traditional assets. I mentioned starting a business already. I've actually got a friend who was an employee, and he started a side business using a few hours during his evenings and sometimes weekends. And the income from that grew until it actually replaced his 9 to 5 income, and it far surpassed it. But before his income surpassed his work income, he used that income exactly as we see here to greatly increase his income, and it was pretty much all profit, which he could then use to reinvest back into his business or back into other assets. Now, a few other assets that we hear about are things like buying stocks or ETFs or low cost index funds. And this is actually what the majority of people do to create wealth to achieve financial independence. And it works because these investments, they produce dividends or interest and they get reinvested into the funds themselves and then they appreciate over time. And some other people, they'll buy things like real estate, whether it is it could be an individual income property that's cash flow positive, or it could be syndicates, or they might invest in REITs, real estate investment trusts that let you own a piece of properties without being the landlord. The beauty is you don't have to choose just one. The wealthy, they diversify their assets and they create multiple streams of income flowing in. There's another important rule that they know, and it has to do with the levels of wealth. And I created another video that's about the 6 levels of wealth because the rules do change at each level. And I'll share that coming up soon. But the big takeaway for now is to ingrain this money model into your thinking to change your mindset around income and expenses and assets and liabilities. So when you get a raise and increase your income, before you increase your living expenses or liabilities, ask yourself the question, is this going to put money in my pocket or is it going to take money out? Because the real definition of financial freedom, it's not about being rich. It's not about having just $1 million in the bank. Financial freedom is when your assets generate enough income to cover your expenses without you having to work. If this was helpful, click the like button. And then if you do like this, you'll get a lot more out of this video where I share some of the really 12 of the most important money lessons I learned from helping people achieve financial independence over the last 16 years. And remember, the goal isn't to get rich overnight. The goal is to simply understand this model so deeply so that every financial decision you make moves you closer to freedom. I'll see you in the next video.